Hello and welcome to Follow the Money. I'm Raine Musñgi. Join us as we explore the tools and insights you need to jumpstart your financial journey. The Philippines is actively leveraging public-private partnerships, or PPPs, to accelerate infrastructure development and stimulate economic growth. Recent initiatives include the proposed Manila Bay-Pasig River-Laguna Lake, or MAPALLA ferry system, aiming to enhance urban mobility, and a robust pipeline of PPP projects valued at some 2.47 trillion pesos. Additionally, efforts are underway to position Ilocos Norte as a key economic hub in Southeast Asia through strategic PPP collaborations. Joining us today on Follow the Money is Jeffrey Manalo, Deputy Executive Director 5 of the Public-Private Partnership Center of the Philippines, to provide insights into these developments. ASEC, Jeff, welcome to Follow the Money. Grateful you could join us.
Good afternoon, Raine. Good afternoon to everyone watching us today.
We're happy to speak with you. Of course, lots of excitement for the PPP project pipeline. It's expanded to 176 projects totaling 2.5 trillion pesos as of February. Is this still correct? Are there key sectors these projects will encompass? And how do you prioritize which one goes first, and while ensuring a balanced regional development?
A couple of things there, Raine. No? So the first one is on the projects. Yes, right now we have over 170 PPP projects in the pipeline. I think what's important to appreciate here is that these projects are in various stages of implementation. This means some are in the earlier stages of development where studies are still being conducted, while others are closer to project implementation. This means projects that are already ongoing approval or are currently in the procurement stage, which means we are in the process of selecting the government's private sector partner. In terms of the sectors involved, the top three, based on the pipeline that we are monitoring, mostly around 1/3 of these would still be with the transportation and the road sector. So this includes public mass transport, such as rail. Second would be property development, or assets of government, both national and local governments, where government centers are being put up. And finally, ICT projects. No, as you know, part of the priority of the government is the digitalization initiatives across key sectors.
ASEC, how did the PPP Center decide on which projects to prioritize? Are these the pain points of our foreign and local investors?
Okay, so first, it is not the PPP Center who decides on which projects are to be pursued. The decision of which specific projects are to be pursued is based on the decision of the implementing agency. Who is this implementing agency? So this would be our line and sectoral agencies. For example, for transport projects, that would be the Department of Transportation. For road projects, that would be our DPWH. So these agencies are the ones selecting which they think, in their particular sector, are the projects that they want to prioritize. One thing is for sure, all of these projects that they have identified are aligned with the Philippine Development Plan, which is our country's medium-term plan.
How is the timing of these PPP projects? Are there strategies that you are keeping in place to ensure that these are effectively implemented and we avoid potential bottlenecks?
When you look at PPP markets in different countries, it's important to maintain a robust pipeline of PPP projects. This means from project development all the way up to the actual procurement of PPP projects, you would have varying, you have different projects in different stages. This will make our infrastructure pipeline sustainable. So I think in terms of timelines, there are PPP projects that are in the more advanced stages. Many of them have actually started earlier in this administration, or even in past administrations, where we are trying to play a catch up implementation, no, to meet all of our infrastructure requirements, while others are in a relatively earlier stages, which are ongoing investment studies at the moment.
Jeff, looking at your schedule, that's 176 projects. It's kind of hard to keep track of. You know, you'd have to have a whole huge team to be able to, supervise all of that. But in your experience, looking at the schedule of completion of all these projects, are there crucial or critical projects that are maybe behind schedule? Would you be able to identify first the top 5 of these, the biggest and most crucial projects perhaps? And would you be able to identify which projects might be behind schedule at the moment?
Okay. 2 points on that questions. The first one is the PPP Center is not doing this alone. No? We are not the only agency working on this pipeline of 176 projects. We are working very closely with various implementing agencies and even our oversight agencies, for instance, in facilitating the approval of these PPP projects. On the part of the PPP Center, we are also providing what we call the PDMF, or Project Development and Monitoring Facility, which we use to procure transaction advisors. Many of them, world-class transaction advisors to help us develop these complex infrastructure projects. Now, on the timeline, there are different projects in different stages. For instance, there are projects that are currently under procurement. I'm pulling out some numbers here.
Sure.
In terms of project status. Of the 176, there are about 12 projects, both national and local PPP projects, that are currently under procurement. 10 of them are in the approval stage, meaning we are trying to secure the green light so that we could start the selection of our private sector partner. 22 are undergoing negotiation with the unsolicited proposal proponents. This means we are finalizing the terms of the PPP contracts before we secure an approval from the appropriate approving body. And a good 131 of these projects are in relatively earlier stages of project preparation. This means some of them are ongoing studies, while the others are currently starting the procurement of the experts who will be conducting the investment studies for these projects.
And they're all good to hear, and we will be discussing some of those projects later on in the show. But in looking at the schedule right now and looking at those projects, would you be able to share with us how much of those would be supported by foreign investors? How much of those are purely local?
Okay. So this is how it works. When we say pipeline of PPP projects, this is the stage of the project where we have not yet identified our private sector partner. So until after the bidding or the challenge process, for instance, we will be unable to determine whether the project or our private sector partner will be with a fully foreign or a fully local or a mix set of private sector partners.
Even among the unsolicited project proposals?
Okay, so for the unsolicited proposals, I don't have the numbers right now, but majority of them are unsolicited proposals that were submitted by our local conglomerates, mostly Filipino companies.
We know that one of the top ICT, perhaps, service companies here in the Philippines was rejected late last year for one of their unsolicited projects. Would you be able to identify maybe some reasons why some of those unsolicited proposals might be rejected?
I will be answering in general terms
Sure.
based on our recent experiences in terms of unsolicited proposals being rejected or being returned by the implementing agency. Reasons could vary. For instance, some of the assumptions that were included in the proposal are not deemed to be as robust as what the government is expecting. That's one. Second, could be that the implementing agency is already working on a project that it intends to solicit via public bidding instead of negotiating with just one private sector partner. Or I think those would be two, third probably, I would say, is that some of the terms of the proposed PPP project is not something that government is willing to embark on. So I think these would be three reasons in general terms on why an implementing agency would reject or would have rejected an unsolicited PPP proposal.
All right. Well, moving on, we have to move on to some of the other questions. The Build, Operate, Transfer, or BOT law, now amended as RA 11967, aims to enhance the PPP framework. What are the critical changes that were introduced, and how do they address previous challenges in PPP implementation?
Yeah. So first, it's RA 11966.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's the PPP code of the Philippines. This is a product of trying to capture the lessons learned from the past 30 years. So there are a lot of reforms under the new law, and I would mention probably the four major ones. The first one, for instance, is unifying the what used to be a fragmented legal framework for PPPs. Now, we are looking at just one set of rules that will govern all PPP projects. Before, depending on the type of implementing agency, there are more than 1,000 legal frameworks for the government to enter into a PPP, and it doesn't promote ease of doing business as far as the private sector is concerned. That's one. Second is that we have made the rules and the approval process, for instance, more decentralized and streamlined. Before the PPP code, PPP projects costing 300 million pesos and above will have to go all the way up to the president for approval. And this it basically the decision making process is very centralized. Under the new PPP code, only those PPP projects costing 15 billion pesos and above will go all the way up to the NEDA board chaired by the president himself, while those below it have been delegated or have the authority was already given to the boards and the heads of agencies. Another picture in terms of streamlined process is that what used to be an average of 18 months of project approval just to get the green light to proceed to procurement is now down to a maximum of 120 calendar days for the government to decide whether the project is to proceed or not. So imagine the magnitude of this reform. And thirdly, we now have clearer rules and timelines for unsolicited proposals. This is when it is the private sector proposing to the government a proposed PPP project. And finally, uh, we have included in this new law international good practices in doing PPPs, which we have which we are now doing, no, in our PPP projects that we are currently working on. For example, the use of independent consultants, the predictability of the tariff regime, things like that.
Which is actually my next question, considering the kind of timelines and efficiencies that the new PPP law is able to implement. What kind of oversight? You said international good practices and third-party consultants to make sure that there is no graft and corruption that happens there, and the efficiency is actually made or rather ensured. What kind of oversight do they actually exercise? How do they exercise it? Is it every step of the way, or is it only after a review of the project?
One of the features of the PPP code is that it has made the processing of projects very transparent in terms of timelines and
Costs.
who the decision makers are. So upon project entry, no, every step of the way, the law has provided a specific timeline, so it is easy for the public actually to know whether projects are being delayed or whether the government is not doing its part in terms of the decision making process. So I think that's one. The second is that the monitoring role of the PPP Center was also strengthened, which would, by design, hopefully, would make the implementation, the development and implementation of these PPP projects more transparent to our general public. If you visit the website of the PPP Center, for example, all of these 175 projects that I am talking about are listed, including their status, and this is being updated daily. Apart from this, even the awarded PPP contracts are also updated in the website of the PPP Center.
All right, grateful for you answering that question. Among the priority sectors of the PPP Center, I don't think I saw education there, but it's mostly, a lot of it is infrastructure, of course, like improving our buildings. But education seems to also be a priority sector that the economists or even other stakeholders would recommend. Can you share updates on current or upcoming PPP projects aimed at enhancing the educational infrastructure and services in the Philippines?
In the PPP program parlance, Raine, we call these social infrastructure projects. These are infrastructure projects that are in the education sector, for instance, or in the health sector. And you're asking about the education sector. We actually have an experience already on classroom construction. We call it PSIP, or the PPP for School Infrastructure Project, phases 1 and 2. This is the simultaneous construction of over 9,000 classrooms in several regions in the country. Yeah. And the right now we are working with DepEd to replicate this, in fact, a better version of what was rolled out previously in 2015, 2012, uh, what we call PCP Phase 3. This time it is the construction of classrooms and delivery of different educational facilities covering 9 regions. So about 15,000 fully equipped classrooms across CAR, Caraga, NCR, regions 1, 2, 3, 4A, 4B, and 5. This will also include, the furniture of the classroom, internet connectivity, electrical installations, and even solar panels and rainwater catchments to enhance sustainability and climate resilience of our schools, our public schools. The other one is what we call the PCP Connect project. This is about digitalizing the education sector, mainly for students and teachers. So all public school teachers will be provided with laptops. Students will be able to access and use learning laboratories by the reconfiguration of physical spaces. Students will also have access to enhanced learning management systems. So this would include digital platforms that teachers and students can use in schools. So
Lots of
these are, I think, two critical projects that we're currently working on with the Department of Education.
And the date of delivery of those projects, the earliest?
Right now, the status of these projects is that they are in a relatively earlier stages of investment studies. A more definitive timeline, and I don't want to give false hopes here.
Sure.
The studies would normally be about 6 to 8 months, and from there, the timelines under the PPP code would kick in,
Okay.
and that's where we would have a more definite timeline.
Understood. Well, there are projects that already are in place and are subject for approval. We'll talk about them in a little bit. Again, we'll delve into the PPP's role in the MRT projects, for example, and its implications for urban transit as well. Stay on BNC and follow the money. Welcome back to Follow the Money. We're still with PPP Center's Deputy Executive Director, Jeffrey Manalo. ASEC Jeff, we only actually have about 3 or 4 minutes left in the show. So I hope you don't mind if we just fast talk through some of these projects. It's just a status update, basically, of the MRT3 PPP project being finalized with the ADB as well as the DOTR. I think that's a priority project as well for our new secretary. We also have the Ilocos Norte as an economic hub in the Philippines. We have as well the MAPALLA ferry system. Of all these projects, there's also the waste to energy facility in Clark. What are you the most excited about out of all these projects? And which one do you think would benefit the most number of people?
I would say, well, in terms of the most number of people, that's hard to answer, but definitely public mass transport systems we're very supportive of mass transport systems because this would benefit our everyday public commuters. No, so that would include your MRT3s and your earlier you mentioned about the MAPALLA PP ferry system project. So these are some examples of public mass transports that we really are very keen in supporting.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the MAPALLA ferry system, where are you in there?
So the feasibility study for this project is almost complete. We are targeting to reach the approval stage by first half of this year, so that hopefully by end of this year or early 2026, uh, we would already have started the selection of our private sector partners. So this MAPALLA, so it's called MAPALLA, but it actually stands for Manila Bay-Pasig River-Laguna Lake ferry system. So it aims to expand the existing ferry system that's traversing our Pasig River. No, so
Right. And
it's meant to.
how many people is that supposed to benefit? That's like
Uh,
three cities.
yeah, it not only three cities. It will traverse from Manila to Makati, Pasig, Taytay, Rizal, all the way up to Laguna, and the Manila Bay area. So basically, it's the entire greater capital region that would benefit from this project.
Understood. Finally, the Ilocos Norte project, economic hub, that covers infrastructure, agribusiness, renewable energy, job creation. Is that a marching order from the president?
It is actually an initiative of the governor who partnered with the PPP Center so that we could provide them with technical assistance on how they can embark into PPP projects. As you know, like many local government units, there are a lot of infrastructure needs. And that is also the case for Ilocos Norte. And they are interested to use PPP as a mode to implement these infrastructure projects. So our engagement with them would include, developing the pipeline of projects that they could work on and translate these pipeline of projects to actual PPP projects that we could bid out and implement for Ilocos Norte. So that's it.
All right. Perhaps as a final note, as a final message, is there one PPP project that you are the most excited about, or what do you think our consumers, our people should be looking forward to the most?
Yeah, it's hard to choose one, but there would be two, I think, game-changing sectors who could benefit, which could benefit a lot of our fellow Filipinos. One would be those airport PPPs, so that would include your NAIA, Bohol, Lagindingan airport PPPs, as well as our mass transport systems, which includes MRT 3 and MRT 7, for example, closer to implementation. And then the operations and maintenance of our Metro Manila subway and the North-South commuter rail.
Certainly, connectivity is a crucial business for every Filipino, not just here in the country, but also across the region. Jeffrey Manalo, Deputy Executive Director 5 of the Public-Private Partnership Center of the Philippines, thank you so much for sharing your valuable updates and insights with us. We really appreciate you coming on board, and we hope to touch base with you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Raine.
The strategic implementation of PPPs is poised to significantly enhance the country's infrastructure and economic landscape, fostering sustainable and inclusive growth. That is it for today's edition of Follow the Money. I'm Raine Musñgi. Thank you so much for watching. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel, always on top.